Boya Kirosa Kena Narvames, when our father sees that the lad is not there, he will die. And you cause avodecho, again, esebas avdecho, the old age of our father who's your servant, with yogon, with aggravation, with angst, into the grave. So Rashi himself explains, as long as his Binyamin is there, he's a consolation for his mother and for his brother, because he's a representation of that family. But if Binyamin should die, as if all three of them died at the same time on one day. Therefore, he is what he's still called, he's the stopgap. But if anything should happen to him, everything just falls apart, and our father goes to the grave with the greatest level of suffering. Where do you find this? You find this, the Gemara tells us in Tainus that the three shepherds of Israel passed away in the same month. Moshe, Aaron, and Aaron passed away in the same month. So Gemara says, what are you talking about? Moshe passed away in Adar, Aaron passed away in Av, and Miriam passed away in another month. They didn't pass away in the same month. So the Gemara explains that in the merit of Miriam, Aaron, and Moshe, the three gifts we had in the desert were in place. In the merit of Miriam, we had what's called Be'er Shel Miriam, the wellspring of Miriam. In the merit of Aaron, we had the Ani Yakovot, we had the clouds of glory. In the merit of Moshe, we had the Mon. When Miriam passed away, as the Torah tells us, the water ceased. Moshe struck the rock, the water came back, but it only came back, that was in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the water was reinstated in the merit of Moshe. So now, at this point, we have the Mon and the water in the merit of Moshe. When Aaron passed away, the clouds of glory dispersed. We didn't have the protection any longer. And it says we were attacked at that time. The clouds of glory were reinstated. In whose merit? In merit of Moshe. So at the end of the day, we had the wellspring of Miriam, the clouds of glory, and the Mon were all in merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe passed away, it was as if all three of them passed away one time, meaning since it was only for a slight hiatus, the water ceased and the clouds ceased and everything was in place, they didn't appreciate the passing of Miriam or the passing of Aaron, because the consequence wasn't that extreme. When Aaron passed away, when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, everything ceased. The Mon, the clouds of glory, and the Be'er Shel Miriam and the wellspring, then they felt the impact of not having the three shepherds. Then they were totally at a loss. So it's as if all three of them passed away at the same month. That's what how the Gemara answers, reconciles the psukim. So I'm saying, Yehuda is saying, as long as Binyamin is alive, he's the consolation of all three of them. He doesn't feel the full brunt of losing his wife or losing his other son. But if he dies, then everything just falls apart, and he feels the effect of all the passing of all three of them simultaneously. We find that in Egypt, the Torah tells us, it says, Vayomas Melech Mitzrayim, then it says, Vayitziku el Hashem. They cried out. And it was Vayimoru Chayim, and they embittered their lives. So Rashi says over there, what happened? That when Paro became a leper, he started to slaughter the Jewish children, and he bathed in their blood. He bathed their blood. At that point, it says they called out, it became intolerable, meaning a person has his family, as long as as much as they work him, and he suffers under that workload, his family is his consolation. But once chas v'shalom, God forbid, they start killing his children, and his family is not there, then he feels it's not worth living any longer. Until then, a person is able to suppress whatever that pain is, whatever that horror is, that nightmare, because he has the family. That's the light in his life. And once they start extinguishing that light, God forbid, his children, then it becomes totally dark. Then a person can't tolerate all the pain any longer. So the children are the holdout, so to say. Once, God forbid, the kids are taken, they start killing the children, then the person says, I'm willing to throw in the towel. It's not worth living any longer. Similar idea. Your servant took responsibility for the lad. Mim avi lemor. Why am I the spokesman? Why am I speaking on behalf of all the brothers? Because I have the greatest level of consequence if I don't bring him back, because I took responsibility. Imlo avienu elecho. I said to my father, if I don't bring him back to you, I will sin to my father all my days, my physical life, my spiritual life. Meaning he's telling Yosef that he excommunicated himself, not only in this world, but even the world to come. So therefore, I have the greatest at stake. Therefore, I'm the spokesman. Therefore, for me, I'm willing to push it to the nth degree to be able to vindicate Binyamin that he's not guilty of what he's accused of. There's a question which is asked. I mean, Yaakov saw Reuven as an impulsive person. Those stories switched the beds. Therefore, he forfeited the royalty, Malchus, and he forfeited Kuna. Malchus went to Judah, and the Kuna went to Levi. But Judah, that Yaakov evaluated Judah. Judah was worthy and qualified to be the king. Why? And he knew how serious it is to be able to put your world to come, that you exist only for that, on the line. I mean, what about if Judah says, I will bring you son back? I give the guarantee. I'm willing to give my life, my physical life. What do you have to put his spiritual life on the line? That he should even become excommunicated from the world to come. For what reason? Is it what he felt Judah wouldn't act responsibly unless the stakes were set at such a price? And why did Yaakov put him in this? And afterwards, as we said, his soul, his neshama was kept out from Yeshiva Shamalo until Moshe Rabbeinu prayed to be reinstated. Only because Reuven had done tshuva due to his public admission that he admitted that he impregnated Tamar. Right? Why did Yaakov put him in this vise and force him to make this level of commitment? That if he doesn't bring him back, he's excommunicated in both worlds. Again, and I'll make a differentiation based on the Medrash.
I was comparing it to possibly the oath that Eliezer took when Avram made him swear, even though he trusted him, he was the CEO of his company, and he was a Talmid Chacham, and he was his right-hand man. He still made him take an oath beyond to assure that that it would be, that he would find
He only takes a wife from his family.
Proper from his family, right?
So
there was self-interest, right?
Yeah, you see that when you're dealing with something of such great importance, you will not agree unless it's ironclad beyond anything. You leave nothing to chance, so to say.
Right.
Except if you take a look in the Midrash over there, Eliezer was from Canaan, right? He was from Chum, Canaan. He was Canaanite. And there's a pasuk which the Midrash quotes that Canaan or Mosnei Mirmo, the scales are of deceit. There's a certain thread in Canaan that cannot be trusted. As a result of that, you never know what could actually activate that level of dishonesty. So Avram himself wasn't willing to take a chance. Maybe it's so buried, and it's been so dormant for so many years, I don't have to worry about it. Avram wasn't willing to take a chance. Because since his pedigree was Canaan, he wasn't going to leave it to chance, although it's something which is very remote. Yehuda, he already chose him to be royalty. Yehuda is the son that's going to be the king. So if that's the case, he's fully responsible. Why did he have to? Why did he have to put him in this situation or agree to it that he should actually forfeit his world to come to be excommunicated, where we see what the ramifications and the consequences were? Now, I'll give you an example. A person feels he's doing his best. Does anybody know he's doing his best unless he's put in a certain situation that he's doing his best? Give you an example. You have two very good friends, and each friend would literally give his life for his other friend. And the friend needs a financial loan, a serious amount of money, and he lends it to him. And he needs it for something very important. And then the friend says to his friend who's lending money, says, maybe you can do a little bit better because it doesn't bring me all the way. I need slightly more. The friend says, I've never ever done this for anybody in my life. And only because you're like my brother, I've done my best. I can't do better than that. And he truly couldn't. Fast forward a few years later, his son is in the exact same predicament as his best friend. And for his son, he's able to do better. When he said he couldn't do better for the friend, he truthfully, he couldn't. In his mind, he wasn't able to do better. He did his best. A person doesn't, when it comes to your son, the son is a different reality. All of a sudden you realize, maybe I could do a little bit better. It becomes a different reality. Yehuda understood his father that unless he puts it all on the line, as much as Yehuda will do his best and act responsibly, and he's worthy and qualified to be the king. But when it comes to this, Yehuda may believe he's doing his best. So unless Yehuda puts everything on the line, only then Yehuda knows he's doing his best. And Yehuda understood, that's the way his father understood it. Therefore, he put everything on the line for that reason. Now allow your servant to be in the place of the lad, and I will be a slave to my master. And the lad will ascend with his brothers to return. How's it possible I should return to my father and the lad's not with me? Pen era biro, because maybe I'll see the rob, meaning I'll see the tragedy which will come upon my father, to see my father die. Okay? So what has Yehuda done? Yosef projects himself as being this benevolent, merciful, kind, giving type of person. And the picture Yehuda painted was what? That Yosef is a heartless, cold-hearted person. And here he creates a scenario where it's clear from day one that his interest was ultimately to take Binyamin. And this is a basis accusation that Binyamin stole his goblet. Lo yochel Yosef etzapek. Yosef was no longer able to contain himself because it was done public. Here, Yosef was the sustainer of the world, and he was seen as what, as I said, as a benevolent person. But the way Yosef was described publicly, so Yosef looked very bad, and he somehow had to vindicate himself. He had to save the day. The only way he was able to save the day, he had to reveal that he was their brother. And he wasn't this heartless person. The whole idea was to reunite them. Because it says, Lo yochol Yosef l'sapik l'chol hanitzovim olav. He wasn't able to contain himself due to all those that were present there. Vayikra, and therefore, Vayikra utziu kol ish me'olai. He says, remove everyone from my presence. V'lo omad ish ito b'svada Yosef etzechov. And no man was there when Yosef made himself known to his brothers. So Rashi says, why? Lo yochol Yosef sapik lo nitzovim, lo yochol lizbol she mitzriyim nitzovim olav v'shomen she'echov misbaishin bivado Elohim. Simply, the reason why he told everybody to leave was why? Lo yochel sapik, the way I explained, some learn, because he looked bad. He had to somehow vindicate himself. Rashi says, Lo yochel lizbol she mitzriyim nitzovim olav. He wasn't able to deal with the fact that the moment he divulges who he is, and his brothers are going to be shocked to believe that he's the brother, and they'll understand, and they'll be embarrassed, a level of embarrassment not to be described. He did not want to publicly embarrass his brothers. Therefore, he dismissed everyone. Nobody could be present when he reveals himself to his brothers. Ultimately, it was known, but not to be able to see their faces, what they looked like, that he wanted to be concealed. You'd say all that he's been through, that he should have this level of sensitivity. What they put him through, that he's sensitive, they shouldn't be embarrassed. So how do we understand it? Why did he have this capacity to have the sensitivity? We explained why did he name his first son Menashe? Because the basis of the name, the Torah tells us, because he said, Hashem has caused me to forget all my father's household and everything that transpired there. Yosef was the equivalent, he had amnesia. All the trauma that his brothers put him through, and all what his home represented, scarred him at a level that he wasn't able to function in the capacity to provide and prepare for the Golus. He had to be selflessly involved to provide for his family. Having any trace of that trauma, he would not be able to be the qualified person who he's meant to be. All of a sudden, a miracle happens. Hashem actually wipes the slate clean. It's as if it never happened. He understood, now he's ready for real time. As a result of that, he named his son Menashe, because that was a confirmation of, it was a miracle that God caused him to forget everything of the past, to be able to function as the viceroy. So right now, when Yosef is dealing with his brothers, there's not a trace of that, of any level of animosity or negative feeling towards them. So he has a full sensitivity to his brothers' feelings, not to embarrass them. Therefore, he dismisses everyone now that the charade can't go any longer. So now he dismisses everyone because he can't tolerate to see his brothers being embarrassed in front of the Egyptians for that reason. That's firstly. Later, when Yaakov passes away, the brothers were concerned. There was a shift. As long as Yaakov was alive, they all ate at the same table. His brothers ate with him at his table. When Yaakov passed away, they no longer ate at his table. That level of closeness was no longer there. So they read between the lines. Now, as long as Yaakov was alive, Yosef didn't want to cause his father any pain. But now that he's not here any longer, he's going to take revenge. So the brothers, they pleaded. They pleaded that the father had said, and they made up a story. But they didn't understand Yosef. So Yosef said to them, if I, God forbid, would kill you, here we created a story that you're my brothers, I'm royalty. It's unheard of. Does a brother kill his brothers? So if I would do anything negative towards you, immediately that would indicate to the Egyptians that I'm a fraud, that I'm truly I come from us. We're not royalty, because whoever heard of a brother killing his brothers? That's what Yosef said to his brothers. But the only one who could experience and understand what Yosef was experiencing was only Yosef. Because humanly, anybody went through what Yosef went through, it's impossible for them to behave so selflessly to his brothers. But Yosef was the one who experienced the miracle. But they understanding, the only way they understood why Yosef could do it was because of their father. Out of respect, out of love for their father. But once the father's no longer here, so they immediately read the script. If they're no longer at their brother's table, he's ready to take revenge. Because they didn't understand what it meant, Ki Nashani Elokim, that God caused this amnesia, so to say, all the past to be totally removed and erased from his emotion. Therefore, they suspected this is an indication he's going to take revenge.
Rabbi, I saw a midrash.
Yosef cried out, raised his voice in a crying manner. Vishmu Mitzrayim, Vishmu makes Paro. The Egyptians heard, and it got back to the house of Paro, base Paro. So Rashi says, Yishmeis Paro, Beso Shaparo, Klom Avodov Ne Beso. His family, his slaves, Eloshim Bais Mamish, El Kmo Beis Yisrael, okay. Vayom Yosef El Lechov. And Yosef says to his brothers, Ani Yosef, Hodov Yichoy. I'm Yosef, is my father still alive? Lo Yochlu Echov Lanos, Oso Ki Nivelu Miponov. When he said this to them, his brothers were not able to respond because they like were overwhelmed. Meaning they were so overwhelmed with guilt and embarrassment because what happened at this moment? Originally, why did they sell him? Because they said the dreams were all dreams of delusion. It was all delusionary. And now all of a sudden they realize in retrospect, what they did was so unconscionable. What they did to their father, what they did to Yosef, literally heartlessness, actually it was true. Meaning they read the script wrong. They misread Yosef all along. And now it's confirmed. So looking back in their lives, what they did, they couldn't live with themselves. So therefore they were so overwhelmed with guilt that they were dumbfounded. That's what happened at this moment. Good afternoon. Abusha. Why were they nivalu? They were bewildered because of embarrassment. Could you imagine the embarrassment? There's an expression, if I could dig a hole, I would dig a hole and disappear. That was the level of embarrassment they had. It's not to relate to. I mean, here the father is grieving for 22 years because they felt justified to do what they did. And although when they took Binyamin, they said maybe the reason why all this happened because Hashem is taking, because maybe we were too insensitive. They didn't question the decision. When he pleaded for his life, we should have maybe had some degree of mercy. That's the claim against us. But now they saw they were dead wrong, literally dead wrong. So all the pain and suffering they caused their brother, and all the pain they caused their father, and that the father has been prophesizing for 22 years, they're at fault for this. Because now they realize what Yosef, his dreams were really, they're prophetic. Every detail of the dream is exactly as he interpreted it to be, that they will bow to him, and he will be the provider. So there's a famous question which is asked by the Brisker Rov. Yosef's brothers hadn't gone back. He says, Ani Yosef Oro Vichoy. I'm Yosef, my father's still alive. I mean, when they came originally at this juncture, the first thing he asked, how's your old father? He said, he's well, he's still alive. And now he asked the question again, is your father still alive? Is our father alive? What do you mean, is he alive? And also he should have said, Ha'od Avinu Chai. He said, Ha'od Avi Chai. My father. What do you mean, my father? Our father. That's the Brisker Rov's question. They haven't been back. So they don't know more than he knows. So the Brisker Rov says it was a rhetorical question like this. You painted a picture about me that I was cruel beyond anybody's imagination because I'm heartless, because the old father, when you take his child, he will die because their souls are bound up. And when you sold me into slavery, the nature of the relationship I had with our father, and you knew that relationship, did you take that in consideration? That may kill him? You didn't take that. Me, you're painting as a monster, and you people yourselves, you weren't monsters. So it's a rhetorical question. Not that he's asking, is he still alive? In terms, did you take that in consideration? You don't take it into consideration. You see yourselves as lily white. But me, when I take Binyamin, I'm cruel beyond anybody's imagination of what cruelty is. That's what hit. That's what hit them, because he showed them exactly who they were. That firstly, the dreams are true because they see the dream, and not only on top of that, the accusation to him, that accusation's themselves. They're culpable for the exact same thing, and they are truly the guilty ones because they caused it.